Hey, what is up, guys? Today we have an interesting video. I'm gonna be talking about some cybersecurity stuff or dark web stuff or I don't know, dude. Whatever you want to whatever category you want to put it into. This video is for educational purposes. Obviously, I don't suggest that people commit crimes. It's really stupid. Um, Most people that are going to be looking at this video are people that are probably just interested in the subject. They're people that watch my channel, or they're people that are want to get into selling drugs and buying drugs on the internet. Which I will say this: don't do it. The risk involved is fucking stupid. Um, there's a cool trick. It's called go to a downtown area, where all the bars are. Go into the bars and then find the palest guy in the room and ask him for drugs. Or buy him a couple drinks and see if he mentions drugs. The type of people, if their nose is runny, there's usually some sort of sports paraphernalia involved, you know what I mean? They're gambling. There's a lot of tells for these kind of people. I'm sure you know somebody like this. This is a lot smarter way of going about buying your drugs, because when people send you drugs in the mail, there is a big risk that these things get caught up in the mail, and then next thing you know, you get a letter at your house, or you get, a knock on the door, and that's not a good thing, right? It's not good. So, like I said, this is not recommended. This is just an interesting subject that, I want to talk about, and we'll make a video, right? So let's see. Here we go. I made a little presentation. I'm using this app called Slides. So here we go. This information is for educational purposes only. Do not commit crimes. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. All right, let's get into it. So what are ghost laptops? Ghost laptops are laptops that have no personal information tied to them, right? They're used to commit crimes. They're used to browse the internet in anonymity, right? They're used to buy and sell drugs online, like I've said. Some really gross people use them to do bad things. This is something that's unfortunate that happens in the world. There's disgusting people. If you're one of those people and you're watching this video right now, steer clear of me. You don't want to cross my path, all right? Anyway, other reasons, people whistleblowing, you know, uh this is a thing, think your Bradley Mannings, your Edward Snowdens, your Julian Assanges, right? These type of people, journalists, right? As much as I hate journalists, in certain circumstances in certain parts of the world, this needs to happen. There's people that their lives are in danger. They need to be able to have a really safe, encrypted sort of form of communication. Something they're not going to get in trouble for outwardly. So this is something that's real. Uh, High level trolls. So people that are really, really, really trying to hide their identity because they're either doing highly illegal things like swatting or, fraud. These kind of people use this, and if you're like Amish or like you're anarcho-primitivists and you don't want your buddies to know that you're online, you might want to use these tactics. All right. So that's a brief rundown of what ghost laptops are. So, you want to be invisible, right? This is how you fuck up. Receipts. So with receipts, that's going to be like how you're getting this laptop. You don't want to walk into like some place and have your face wide open and you're paying with your credit card or your debit card and all this stuff's tied to your name. That's not good. Cell towers. The reason why I say cell towers is because there's all sorts of data as you're walking through your life that you're giving to all sorts of people that you don't know about, and a lot of it's coming off your cell phone. So if you're going to be using one of these kind of situations just as a higher level of tinfoil hattery, you're going to want to keep your cell phone way away from you. Keep it in a Faraday bag. Do whatever you need to do, right? Wrong Wi-Fi, bro. So what this is referencing is you want to be in control of like the networks that this device is connecting to, right? You don't want to just leave it on and have it hooking up to all sorts of stuff and leaving little breadcrumbs here and there and X, Y, and Z. This is not a good thing, right? So, don't use your neighbor's Wi-Fi. I've watched like tons of videos of law enforcement, like computer task force kind of people, right, talk about this stuff. And like, I've heard multiple times they're like, "Oh, you're going to use your neighbor's Wi-Fi? Those are the first people we're talking to." You know what I mean? So don't do that. Okay, shoulder surfing. What is that? That's when somebody's looking over your shoulder at your laptop, seeing what you're doing. You don't want people doing this. You don't want people doing this in regular circumstances anyway, right? So why would you want this to happen when you're trying to be sketchy on a laptop, right? Saved data. Any form of saved data is going to be your kryptonite. We'll get into physical modifications later, but save data. This is very important. You want to make sure that you're not doing this activity at all. No save data, right? Um, really obscure RAM attacks. I'm not an expert on this. I just know that hey, there's a way if they get to that computer quick enough, they pop that thing open, stick the RAM in something else, they can possibly catch data off that's still hanging out in the RAM for however many milliseconds that happens for. Like I said, really obscure RAM attacks. All right, loose lips sink ships. I shouldn't have to explain this one. If you walk around talking about what you're doing, somebody can turn around and tell on you. That's not a good thing. Too many breadcrumbs, workflows, forensics. This is basically like, don't alter your workspace. Keep it default. You don't want any tells. You don't want any, oh, this one guy always uses one wallpaper, or, this person always uses this same browser at this same resolution. You want this to be as obscure as possible. You want to blend into the crowd, right? And then communication patterns. And what this is everybody that talks on the internet, um, like it's really hard for you to pretend to be two different people because of the way that you type and the way that you communicate, right? Unless you're absolutely conscious of this at all times, this is, this is going to be like your biggest thing that you're going to have to worry about, right? Well, one of the biggest things. Okay, so acquiring a laptop for use. Do not, for the love of God, use your debit card, dude. This is a bad idea, right? So we have some options and solutions here. Goodwill, right? Um, most of the Goodwills don't really have cameras. If they do, it's easy to obscure what you look like. You wear medical mask, you put your hood up, you grow all your facial hair out and then shave it off right after, or there's a lot of, you don't want people seeing you, which is kind of like what I wrote here at the bottom. If you buy it in person, be nondescript, no logos. You don't want fancy stuff. You don't want stuff that's going to be memorable. Uh, you know, yeah. So pawn shops that don't ID you for the sale, that's going to be another one that's going to kind of tie into Goodwill. Yeah. Theft. Now, this is another crime I don't suggest you commit. But let's say, theft is a thing. Garage sales. If you could catch a laptop at a garage sale, that's real good, especially if you could catch a laptop at a garage sale and then you don't really have your fingerprints on it, and then it's a bunch of somebody else's fingerprints and they don't know who the fuck you are. I'm not saying that you want to be setting people up on this, mind you, but yeah, that's a thing. Pay a homeless person to buy it. Homeless people need money. You want them to make money? You tell them to go buy a laptop. Don't tell them who you are. Tell them to keep their mouth shut. Most likely, they hate law enforcement anyway. They're not going to talk to them anyway. They're just going to be like, I don't know, some guy paid me to buy a laptop. All right. Bulk refurbished sellers. So there's a lot of ways. Okay. When big companies go down, right? They have a bunch of commuter equipment and they sell it off, right? And they're not tracking like the MAC addresses or like anything going on with this, right? It's just ends up in some random dude, and he's either melting down all the precious metals out of the chips and the boards, or they're reselling they're refurbishing and reselling these laptops. Those laptops typically aren't tracked. You go on eBay, you go on other places, You could do it that way. Let's see. The trash, you can dig through the trash, find a laptop. That's always an option. And then Craigslist and other online marketplaces. Any of these ones where, like I said, you don't have anything tied to you that you could just go, oh, I'll meet some idiot at Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? And then you give him $100 and he gives you a ThinkPad. You know what I mean? Like there you go. That's the kind of idea right there. Uh, and then onwards with like what kind of laptops? Don't get any sort of netbook or Chromebook. Just find an older laptop, a ThinkPad, Dell Latitude, these kind of things you can get real cheap. You don't need a ton of, well, actually, you should probably have like 16 gigs of RAM, let's say. But outside of that, that's the only real requirement. The read and write speed for your RAM is probably going to be useful just to get to get your distro up and running and everything, because it's all going to hang out in the RAM and whatever. Yeah, I guess that's explained right there. Okay, so other gear to consider. I'm going to touch upon a couple things here that, like have to do with cell phones. The video isn't going to be all about cell phones, but I'll talk about that. Okay, so first thing you're probably going to need, most of all, is going to be a USB stick. And the reason why you need the USB stick is because you're going to be using a live amnesic distro. So like what do we have for like the live amnesic distros? Well, it's like basically like Tails, right? So let's see, distros like Tails. Let's see, here we go. Tails alternatives. So it's like it's gonna be stuff like Tails, Hunix. I think if Knoppix might still be a thing. What these do is basically they delete themselves once you turn the computer off. So there's nothing left over, right? Everything's gone. Bye bye. So yeah, there's that. Okay, and then you might need some physical tools here, right? So wire cutters, I'll explain that later. Screwdriver set, that's going to go along with the wire cutters. I'll explain that later. Gloves. Um, this is more of a paranoia thing. Like, how far are we going to go with the paranoia here? You know what I mean? Faraday bags. This is in reference to like cell phones. So you obviously you don't want your cell phone, you know, when you're traveling around with one of these things, just hooking up to everything, right? So the Faraday bag is going to be very useful. You put your cell phone in there. And yeah, and then these are good too if you have burner phones that you want that your name's not tied to, and you don't want them hooking up to cell towers and random Wi-Fi connections. Yeah, Faraday bag. Okay, a Yagi antenna. What is a Yagi antenna? It's basically just an antenna you plug into your laptop, and it allows you to pick up Wi-Fi signals from far away, right? And then this opens up like your safety levels like a lot if you got one of these. You can get them for like 20, $30. You can build them yourself. They're easy to build. If you don't want to tie your name to the purchase of the antenna, there's plans on how to build these. They're very simple. Privacy film. Privacy film is just kind of the stuff that goes over the screen, and then you wear a pair of glasses and you can see the screen, but everybody else just sees some like Gaussian blurred out like garbage, right? And then, of course, you're going to need a tinfoil hat, right? Because that's kind of, required for these type of situations. Onward and upward. Let's go. All right. Physical modification of devices. Actually, we'll bring up the browser again. Okay. Let's see. Oop. This is going to be an interesting one. This is actually kind of what inspired the video. Was somebody was talking about um how to make these. This guy was making them, right? And there's like kind of some points that he made that are very nice, but I'm gonna make some better points. Okay, so right here we're gonna just do this so I can do a little drawing. So okay, right here, let's say like right here is the camera, right? So typically on these designs, there's gonna be a wire that runs here and then down here and through here, and then it'll come through like one of the hinges into the inside or wherever, right? You want to cut this wire. you take it open, you pull the screen back, you cut this wire, leave the camera there. If you pull the camera out, then if somebody comes across this laptop, they're gonna be like, "Yo, why the fuck is the camera cut out of this laptop?" Right? So you just leave it in there, just cut the wires so it cannot do anything. And usually the microphone is inside of this camera part, right? So that's basically what you want to do, right? Like that's kind of important. Okay, so remove cameras, remove mics. Now, the hard drive, you don't need the hard drive. Now, this is like a point where you could go two ways, right? You could either get rid of the hard drive or you can keep the hard drive and then you can make it look like somebody's using it, right? Privacy screen mods, I kind of went over that. Removing the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth adapter, this is another like highly paranoid thing, like, but it could also form like a good practice, you know what I mean? Uh and this is with like wrong Wi-Fi, bro, you know what I mean? Cell towers, blah blah blah, people trying to hook up Bluetooth, blah blah blah, right? And then keycap covers. What this is, it's like those silicone things that fit over laptops so you don't get dirty stuff inside them. Now, when you acquire these laptops, it's like it puts you in a sketchy situation because it's like, do you want your fingerprints to be all over this laptop? And because if somebody finds it and it looks like a sketchy laptop, and your fingerprints all. So this is something that's whatever. And then destruction agents. So what destruction agents would be is just like ways that you could quickly just destroy your shit and get rid of it. You know what I mean? I know recently in a place in the world that they had things going on. I'm not trying not to talk about political stuff, but like, they had like people's pagers and cell phones and laptops blow up, right? Well, maybe you could rig that sort of situation for yourself, and yeah, like that could be a thing. All right, things you got to install and use. So obviously, amnesic distros is going to be a thing. I've already touched upon Tails, Hunix, Knoppix, all these things that just load into the RAM. Those are going to be important. You're going to want cache paid VPNs and VPSs. I wrote Ghost VPS, same sort of idea. So the VPN, obviously, you guys know what that does. You do that. You can't pay for these with your debit card. So you need something like Mulvad. You need something from a country that's outside of the Five Eyes jurisdiction, that's not logging, or you know what I mean. You're not having all sorts of data hanging around that's gonna tell people who you are, right? And then you know I wrote this goofy shit. If you keep the HD, so if you keep the hard drive inside this Ghost laptop, you're gonna want to populate it with random data. And you can't have all of the random data be generated at one time because the date of modification on the files is going to be like, oh, all these files were downloaded on one day. So every day you want to be going on it and doing dumb shit like, let me download a couple cat memes, let me do this and that. And you want to make it look like it's lived in, but at the same time, you don't want any of your actual personal information in it, right? So yeah, that. Uh, let's see. Oh, I see this is glitched out. That's interesting. Usage and foobar protocols. So kind of one of the purposes of the Yagi antenna is you hook it up to this laptop and then you can hide in your car somewhere. You don't need to be inside the McDonald's or the Starbucks that you're using the Wi-Fi. You could be a couple blocks away and hooking up to that open connection and doing your little things, and then you can hide away and nobody knows you're doing it, right? Never neighbors Wi-Fi, that's just me being redundant. If you need to get rid of your laptop, junkies are a great resource. You literally hand them a laptop, they'll make that shit disappear in 5 minutes, right? There you go, junkies. Wipe downs. So wipe downs would be if you're trying to get rid of one of these laptops, you want to try to get all your fingerprints off of it. You don't want hairs and different bits of material that they could like trace to a certain environment and different things like that. All these things and like literal full tear down. You know what I mean? It needs to be clean. So that's that. Or you just burn the crap out of it, right? Which is the next thing. Just light it on fire. um, and then like I said, usage blend into the crowd. And then the other thing, I wrote hobo disguise here because, like, when you see in like the secret agent movies and there's like like the double agent and he's dressed like a hobo, like hanging out in an alley. You could be doing that with this Ghost laptop and a Yagi antenna, and nobody's gonna know any different. Just hide under a tarp or something, right? So yeah, and that's it. That's kind of, I'm not going to go into the dark web stuff. I don't really care about dark web stuff. I've never used the dark web myself. I just buy my drugs in real life. You know what I mean? I don't need, I don't need to go through, and I don't even do drugs anymore. I just smoke weed, and that's legal where I live, so I can just go into a store. But yeah, uh, that's kind of like the rundown. I don't want to go too heavy into this whole part. And like I said, getting into the dark web part, I don't have any experience with that. I know about things like Dread. You can go on Dread, you can find out what kind of dark markets are going on at the time, and then you can connect to those dark markets. You got to just remember that there's a whole culture, there's a whole um it's a whole alternative community based around this. So you're not just gonna walk in there and be like, "Hey, man, can I buy some drugs?" Like they're not gonna deal with you, right? So just keep that in mind. Like this is gonna be a process. You have to establish a certain sort of street cred in these areas before like you're trusted. So there's that. Um, Thank you for watching. I appreciate it if you made it this far in the video. There's a Discord server. I have the link up here. I'll have the link in the pinned comments. We got some nerds in there. We're all talking about Linux stuff and computer stuff and nerdy weird things and yeah. So if you would like to join, we are there. We talk a lot. Uh we got some people. It's not super big yet, but we're gonna make it big. We're gonna have a lot of fun stuff going on. Yeah. So please comment, share, or comment, like, share, and subscribe. Do all the things. Post me on your Twitter. Post me on the Discord. You know, yeah. And that's the video. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'm gonna this is vacation time for me. So I've got a little mini vacation, and then I got another full vacation coming up. Shit's gonna be fire. All right, yo. I'll check you guys later. Peace out.